I met my partner, whom we'll call Diana, while living in a bustling city. We worked at the same office and had known each other for a few months before we started dating. Diana often talked about her hometown and the paranormal activities she believed took place there. I was skeptical. I didn't really believe in the supernatural, but her enthusiasm was infectious. After a few months of dating, Diana got a job back in her hometown and moved there. I wanted to join her, but there were no job openings for a while. Eventually, I managed to secure a position, and I was excited to see her again after our time apart. When I arrived in her town, Diana and her family welcomed me with open arms. They treated me to delicious meals at her home, and I quickly formed bonds with her family. Besides her parents, she had a younger sister named Lily, who meant the world to her. Lily was shy and rarely spoke, and Diana often shared how frequently Lily fell ill, with doctors unable to pinpoint the cause. Diana's family believed something more sinister was affecting her sister's health. One day, Diana's dad, Daniel, pulled me aside when I arrived. "I hear you're living here now," he said, locking eyes with me. I nodded. "There are some rules you need to follow," he continued, clearing his throat. "Don't fish at the dock after midnight, don't enter the woods after 9 p.m., and whatever you do, don't go near the southern beach at dusk." That last one is non-negotiable. I nodded again, though I didn't take him seriously. I believed everything had a logical explanation, and supernatural tales were just that, stories. Afterward, I joined the family for dinner, and the day unfolded normally. Since I couldn't stay at Diana's home, I rented a place nearby. We went on dates as I acclimated to her town, and even though I dismissed her father's warnings, I found myself avoiding those forbidden times. One day, while at a local cafe, I brought up Daniel's rules. Diana shrugged. "As long as you're not there during those times, you'll be fine." Her casual acceptance made me reconsider. Maybe her father wasn't just trying to scare me. As I got more comfortable in the town, I often visited a beautiful beach. There was a swing in the woods that led to the shoreline, offering a lovely view. I frequently chatted with an elderly woman, whom I'll call Matilda. She came every night to gather firewood, and I enjoyed hearing her stories about her youth. Each evening, as dusk approached, she'd hurry home, cautioning me to leave as well. One evening, while relaxing on a bench at the beach, I fell asleep. I had a strange nightmare about an old man choking me, and when I woke, the beach was deserted. The sky was dark, the clouds tinged red. Suddenly, I felt a chill, as if I was being watched. I hurried back into the woods toward home. As I walked, I spotted Matilda standing still, her back turned to me. As I drew closer, I noticed she had no feet. She was hovering above the ground. She turned to face me, her eye sockets empty, grinning widely. It was an image I couldn't process. I heard the sound of women laughing from all around, eerily cheerful and insane. I covered my ears, looked away, and when I glanced back, she was gone. I sprinted home, the laughter echoing behind me, seeming to follow me no matter how fast I ran. People on the street stared, bewildered, as if I were losing my mind. When I finally shut the door behind me, the laughter stopped. It was eerily quiet. I peeked out the window but saw nothing unusual. The sunset sky made me think of Daniel's warning, "Don't go near the southern beach at dusk." I wondered if that was the beach he meant. Anxiety gnawed at me, and I decided to avoid that beach for good. But the feeling of being watched lingered everywhere I went. I often felt a light touch on my shoulder or a slight tug on my clothes, but no one was ever there when I turned to look. I didn't share any of this with Diana or anyone else. I figured it was just my anxiety. For several days, I didn't see the old woman again, and I kept myself busy walking around town, trying to shake off the unease. One day, returning home from work, I spotted her again, standing in the woods. She beckoned me closer, but I hesitated, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. She continued to wave, but I ignored her as I walked by. She looked normal, just as she always had, but I couldn't shake the creepy feeling from our last encounter. That evening, I saw her again. "Hello, Radiant," she greeted me, a smile on her face. "It's been a while. How have you been?" I've been okay, I guess, I replied, still uneasy. I have a gift for you. Will you come with me? She asked eagerly. I hesitated but eventually nodded. She led me to her house in town, which looked beautifully decorated, as if for a party. However, when we entered, I noticed it was completely empty. Do you live here alone? I asked, curious. Yes, but my kids are out of town, she answered, guiding me to the brightly lit living room filled with colorful lights. Before long, she handed me a slice of chocolate cake. Take a bite, she urged. I took a bite, but it tasted like mud. I immediately spat it out. Why does it taste so bad? I asked, bewildered. Try another bite, she encouraged, her demeanor turning unsettling as she laughed. It's awful, I exclaimed. She looked disappointed and took the cake away, leaving me confused and uneasy. I hurried back home, feeling strange looks from passers-by as if I were acting oddly. Once inside, I rushed to the bathroom and threw up, feeling weak and feverish. I collapsed onto my bed, trying to rest. A short time later, I was jolted awake by my phone ringing. It was Diana calling. Darling, are you okay? She asked. Diana sounded stressed, no doubt about it. I'm okay, I said, feeling a bit queasy. I'm feeling better now. That's good, she replied, though her tone suggested she didn't believe me. I sensed something unusual. She was unusually quiet. Please tell me the truth, she said seriously. What were you doing at the cemetery? A chill ran down my spine. I was confused by her words. I didn't go to any cemetery. I haven't been there since I moved to this town, I replied, baffled. Many people saw you at the cemetery eating dirt, she said. You left before anyone could intervene. Hearing this sent a cold shiver through me. Was I really losing my mind? Was I actually eating dirt in a graveyard, or had she confused me with someone else? After recalling what had happened, I concluded that Diana was telling the truth. We talked a bit more, and she sounded increasingly worried. Eventually, she hung up. The next day, Daniel called and asked me to come to his house as soon as possible, so I headed over. I knocked on the front door, and Diana opened it, looking stressed. She motioned for me to come inside. She led me to the living room and had me sit on the couch, sitting close and holding my hand tightly. A few moments later, Daniel entered the room and sat next to Diana. Son, he began, I hear you did something questionable at the cemetery. There was a tense silence in the air as I hesitated to respond. Daniel broke the silence. You should have stayed away from the south side at dusk. He was right. I nodded, and his expression shifted to one of anger. I told you not to stay there at dusk. I explained everything that had happened to me in detail, including my encounters with the old woman. I see you've been seeing this old woman every night, Daniel said. Yes, I replied. She said her name was Matilda. Daniel's eyes widened, and I glanced at Diana, who had the same reaction. Son, Daniel finally said, Matilda died years ago. She's my mother, Diana's grandmother. I was stunned to my core. I couldn't believe it. This meant the old woman I had been speaking to was Diana's grandmother. Questions flooded my mind. Why had the old woman lied about her children being far away? If she was a ghost, was she malevolent? So that's the shape it takes, huh? Daniel muttered to himself. What do you mean? I asked. That horrible thing isn't real. It's just one form among many that it can take. Even my daughter Lily, Daniel stopped abruptly. It's okay, Dad, Diana reassured him, holding his hand. My little girl Lily, this thing is tormenting her too. We only just realized it. I was shocked. So what's been making Lily sick? Just then, Lily entered the room. She looked at me and smiled. Mr. Humpty likes you, big brother, she said. Mr. Humpty wants a brother to play with him. Before I could respond, Lily was suddenly pulled away by an unseen force, as if something invisible was trying to choke her. We rushed to help her, but she collapsed. Daniel scooped her into his arms, crying softly as he mumbled something I couldn't quite hear. He left the room, and I saw Diana covering her face with her hands, crying. I did my best to comfort her, and when she finally calmed down, I asked her what had happened. She told me they were having a barbecue in the evening with their neighbors while Lily played with a couple of girls her age. When they lost sight of her, Lily had vanished into the woods. They frantically searched for her, only to find her at the south side at dusk. Since then, she had been acting strangely, becoming frequently ill and unable to leave the house. According to Diana, they had been a safe distance from the south side, and she had no idea how Lily had made her way there through the woods. I had no doubt about it, Lily had gone through something similar to what I experienced. Diana also mentioned that those targeted by the entity saw it in various forms. For me, it was all about her grandma's house. For Lily, it was something else entirely. Diana told me someone was brutally murdered by thugs at South Beach at dusk almost 40 years ago. I understood what she meant. It was that vengeful spirit haunting South Beach. In just a few days, my entire world had turned upside down. I knew that whatever this entity was, it wasn't done with me. Deep down, I wished it would leave me alone. As much as I wanted to deny it, I couldn't escape the truth. I asked Diana why others seemed fine despite going to South Beach at dusk, and why Lily was still affected. To this day, I still don't have answers, and Diana didn't either. Soon, the activity around me intensified. I started hearing distant laughter and voices every time I stepped outside. Strange occurrences began happening everywhere except in my home. Just a few days ago, my coffee cup was mysteriously knocked off the table, shattering on the floor. I also noticed shadowy figures moving at impossible speeds. I began limiting my time outside, and my communication with Diana dwindled. I could tell she was worried, but my mind was too preoccupied with what was happening to me. At work, things grew worse. I avoided going outside, only stepping out when necessary. The shadow figures morphed into unnatural forms. One day, while working late alone, I caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a shadowy face with just one huge eye. It quickly retreated into the cubicle next to mine. I approached the desk, but to my shock, it was empty. Fear gripped me, and I decided to leave. As I reached the exit, I saw it again, its massive eyes staring at me. This time, its face was visible, a grotesque shape with a muscular body and 8 legs, resembling a bug fused with a human torso. After seeing it, I heard manic laughter echoing around me before everything went black. The next morning, I woke up in a graveyard, disoriented and alone. I quickly ran home, my body aching. Once inside, I reached for my phone to call for help, only to find it was missing. Too scared to go back outside, I took a shower, and the heaviness I had felt dissipated. But when I entered my room, I saw the scratches and bruises covering my body. What had happened to me last night? The image of that bug-like creature lingered in my mind, its enormous eyes, its twisted face. I never wanted to see it again. After my shower, I lay on the bed, lost in thought. Soon, I heard knocking at my door. It was Diana, looking distressed and worried. She asked me to explain everything that had been happening, and I did. She mentioned her father and promised to help me through this ordeal, which I gratefully accepted. I learned that Lily had gone through a similar experience, but had found relief with the help of some exorcists. Since then, I've barely left my house and have withdrawn from work. Thankfully, I had vacation time. I've seen a few exorcists, but my situation hasn't improved. Each time I venture outside, I see that bug-like creature lurking in the shadows, sometimes vanishing, other times rushing toward me at blinding speed. I'd faint and wake up covered in scratches. I've also discovered that staying in my home seems to keep it at bay, so I've been spending more time locked inside. Diana has been a great help, bringing me food and assisting with chores. I'm so grateful to have her by my side. I'm too scared to go outside anymore, but I wish to be free of this cursed spirit, whatever it is. For now, I'll remain in my sanctuary until the exorcists can banish this entity.